All right, welcome to episode, I believe it's going to be 15. Let me adjust my camera, even though it's better covering my ugly mug. I probably should be on camera. Episode 15, Roughing the Passer. I'm going to take you through, I believe this is week 11 of the NFL season, but one quick announcement, whether you're watching live or listening to us later on the audio feed. December 1st, we'll be moving this show over to the Six Pack Coverage Network. That's a network owned and run by Andrew Grayson and Albert Haynesworth. Yes, that Albert Haynesworth of the NFL. I'm sure there's more than one Albert Haynesworth, but the one I'm referring to is former NFL defensive end Albert Haynesworth. So I don't anticipate much different with the show, other than probably be found maybe in a different spot. Would definitely be highlighted on their website and their network, and that's a good thing. They have for being pretty new, they've already got 40,000 followers on Instagram and growing. So that's going to be fun, and obviously. Albert Haynesworth's a football guy. I love him or hate him. He's a football guy, and they're definitely heavy football slanted on that network, although they do food shows, entertainment, finance, and sports as well. So I think it'll be a good move for us. I think it'll get more attention to the show, and we'll see where it goes. That'll be December 1st. But you can see I'm already put the logos on their overlay. Might as well just do it, and kind of they're nice enough to invite us, and we'll give them a few free weeks of free advertising, if you will. So with that being said, guys, let's go to the scoreboard as we traditionally do here. All right, here we go. Titans at home, losing to the Texans 22-13. I'm sure we'll talk more about that one. Ravens had to rally a little bit to beat the Bears 16-13. The Raiders are starting to look like the Raiders I thought they were going to be. They lose to the Bengals 32-13. The Cardinals without Kyler Murray beat the Seahawks 23-13. David Lee's Cowboys lose 19-9 to the Chiefs. So not a slouch team. My Steelers are playing right now. They're down 14-10. Packers lost on a last-second field goal to the Vikings 34-13. The Browns edged the Lions 13-10. The Colts took the Bills to the woodshed 41-15 in Buffalo. And don't look now, look at the Eagles 40-29 over the Saints. Washington beat the Cam Newton-led Panthers 27-21. And on Thursday, the 49ers beat the that was today, 30-10 over the Jaguars. The Dolphins 24-17 over the Joe Flacco-led Jets. Yeah, he's still alive, and he's still in the league. And what was their Thursday night game? Where are you? Oh, yeah, the Patriots 25, the Falcons nothing. And Matt Ryan's starting to look his age on that one. So there's the scoreboard. Let's stop sharing this, come back. Let's put up our picks. I'm happy to say I'm just gonna say it now because I'm gonna gloat because it doesn't happen that often. I went 4-0 this week to get back. It's sad that 4-0 only takes me back, to 500. I'll be 22 and 22. But let's go with the man on the top of the leaderboard and see how he did. Arizona +2. They were the underdog in that game somehow. So there's a win. Right now, if the game was to end right now, you'd win on your Charger pick. I stayed away from that game as I traditionally do with Pittsburgh. Green Bay -2 did not cover that one, so you're at right now what would be 2-1 in the Dallas Kansas City. I kind of, when I saw you make this pick, David, I kind of liked it. I thought it was going to be a high scoring game. No such luck there. They only scored 28 combined.
Yeah.
So
looks that game was going to turn into a shootout in the second half.
Yeah, and there was moments where it did, and then a turnover would happen, and so much for that theory. So you'll be 2-2 unless I'm hoping you're going to be 1-3 because that means Pittsburgh did something. But going off of right now, we'll call it 2-2. That would put you at 23, 20, and 1. Rather than go through mine and save a little time, I already said I hit on all mine. I had Miami. I took favorites in a pick 'em. I had Miami, San Francisco, Philadelphia was a pick 'em. I almost didn't pick that game, but I took it. And Houston, Tennessee under 46 and a half. So went 4-0. I'll be 22, evened up at 22. Let's go to Jordan, who was actually in second place when this week started. He took Arizona. He's got that one. He took San Francisco. He's got that one as well. He took Indianapolis. He's 3-0, and then Vegas screwed him for the perfect week.
Whenever I decide to believe in the Raiders, they let me down. I'll hate on them all week, and they'll be like 5-0. Right when I jump on, they decide to.
Well, then it's all your fault, Raiders fans. You can blame Jordan for today's coming back to earth. So you'll be 3-1. That'll put you at 22, 20, and 2. And so I think you're going to be you're going to be right there behind. It's going to be close between the three of us. It'll be you and David Lee and me with a game behind if everything goes the same way. So very tight. It's going to be fun because these picks might come down to the last minute. I think we lost David there for a second, so we'll wait until he comes back. There he is. All right, hang on. Let's do this. All right, there he is. He's back.
There we go.
All right, we didn't miss you for that long. So it's the Game Balls and Goats portion of the show. There we go. Let me put this there. All right. So I'll go. We'll go by the order of the screen. When David dropped out, it made Jordan the first pick here. So it's like the Vikings at the draft. They missed their selection, so the next team goes. Famous draft blunders, the Vikings. So Jordan, go. Let's go game ball first. Who give us one of yours?
So a guy, like I said last week, I didn't think I'd ever actually put him on a good list this year or on any list. He made it again. I went with Colt McCoy. I think that's a tough team to kind of go in and beat Seattle. I think they usually kind of find a way to win, especially with Russell Wilson, and they kind of keep on really going and keeping that offense kind of on track without, obviously. And it's a different offense without Kyler Murray. Obviously, there's a few things Colt McCoy can't do that Kyler Murray can. So you really do have to kind of play a different style of offense, and to see a guy kind of to step in and be that effective after really not, having a major role on the team in a while, it's pretty cool to see, especially just because I think Colt didn't get necessarily a great shot at certain times or really any quarterback that started with the Browns since really Mayfield has gotten a fair shake. So it is cool to see him kind of step in and keep the Cardinals really running, even against good teams.
Yeah, can't argue with that. We'll go to David Lee. Is he one of yours, or are you going somewhere else?
You know I had to go with my guy Colt McCoy, Longhorn legend Colt McCoy. Yeah, because y'all have to understand. Like I was at the national championship game when he got hurt and hurt his he had a pinched nerve kind of at his neck shoulder area, and that knocked him out of the game. Texas loses to that game, so I've seen his whole career at Texas. When he gets to the NFL, he gets absolutely beat up with Cleveland, and really just kind of has been a career backup for the for really all of his career except for like the first couple of years. So it's just really cool to see that, and it's cool to kind of see him step in, like Jordan said, and kind of fill the void for Kyler Murray as much as he can. But at 35 years old, so he's now 2-1, in that absence, and with Dallas losing, with the Rams, losing last week, the Cardinals are kind of back on top record wise of the conference. So, and that's just cool to kind of see him step in and do that. And they've had some trouble keeping all their receivers on the field too. So I think it's just kind of been kind of extra special to see him do that. And it's not like they're not allowing him to throw the ball. It's not like he's only throwing the ball 20 times a game. He slung it around a lot today. So yeah, I had to pick him as one of my three.
All right, so I got him, but I did a slash. I gave it like co-game balls to guys on the same team. So I got Colt McCoy and Zach Ertz in that game. I felt like I had to do a co-game ball. First I had Ertz and not McCoy, and then I saw McCoy's line. I'm like, I cannot get that's a great game against the Seattle team that still feels they're good, although I'm starting to not feel like they're in the mix anymore. So I went with the Colt McCoy, Zach Ertz shared game ball as one of them. Now, if you told an Arizona fan that, Colt McCoy and Zach Ertz are going to be crucial to you beating Seattle in week 11, you'd get some weird looks, right? Maybe not so much on Colt McCoy being you figure, well, Kyler Murray's down, but they didn't even have Zach Ertz to start the year. And so they didn't give up a ton for him. He really solidifies their tight end position. He just fell out of favor in Philadelphia. Sometimes these change of sceneries are exactly what the doctor ordered. And I think they got a tight end now, just another weapon for Kyler Murray or Colt McCoy or whoever starts there at quarterback. But impressive with Arizona. They're winning without their starting quarterback, something you don't see that much anymore. There's usually a pretty big drop-off nowadays. And so that bodes well for them for the future. Kyler Murray is very close to returning. They have rumors where he was probably going to start today. Probably just felt maybe another week would just get him 100%. I don't know if he even dress. I don't know this. Maybe he dressed just in case to come out of the bullpen in the second half. I don't know if he was on the inactives or I don't know. What's that?
I think he was out.
He was out, period. Didn't dress. Yep. All right. So obviously they have enough confidence in Colt from the previous couple games to say, hey, we'll go and we'll play Seattle with Colt McCoy and beat Seattle, obviously, with Colt McCoy. So I go with McCoy and Zach Ertz sharing that today. We'll kind of reverse draft it here. Let's go with a GOAT. I'm going to give one to a whole unit. How about the Tennessee Titans defense? Right, you're going up against the Houston Texans. Tyrod Taylor. Not that Tyrod Taylor's terrible. But, that game, we'll take kind of the fantasy aspect of it. If you have the Tennessee Titans defense and you see that they're playing the Houston Texans, you're probably feeling pretty good. We'll get a couple sacks, maybe a couple picks, maybe a defensive touchdown. We'll definitely win the game. Nothing. None of those things happen. So 0 sacks. 0 turnovers, no fumble recoveries, no interceptions, and a loss on top of that. And so the Titans defense, rather than single out one guy, I think when the whole team doesn't sack Tyrod Taylor, no picks, no fumbles, and you lose, and it's at home. It's in Tennessee.
Yeah, I would agree if Tannehill didn't give him the ball 4 extra times.
Yeah, I hear.
I think it's because really they didn't give up too much. Taylor only threw for 107. They gave up like 40 rush yards to Burkhardt. They didn't really do anything. It's just they kind of constantly didn't have the ball. I think.
Well, I'm gonna use the Tomlin line, right? They didn't make the splash plays, right? We didn't make the splash plays. So the defense didn't spot, listen, now we can throw Tannehill in there too, but zeros.
Yeah.
I'm sticking with my defense. I'm sticking with that whole defensive unit. You're at home, Houston coming in. That's like if you ask most defensive units in the NFL, hey, you can select the team you're going to play against. I'd say 80% would probably select Houston.
But they don't sign up knowing that offense is going to get the ball 4 more times. And right back on the field. And
I hear you.
22 points, man. That's not to give up the ball that many times and the other team really not have many turnovers. It's like, I don't know. That's a big task on Tennessee's defense.
All right, well, it's your turn to pick a goat here. Did you go Tannehill since we're talking about it?
I think you have to go Tannehill. I think you're in a game against Houston, who's one of the
worst. Hey, John, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Actually, yeah, Tannehill is one of mine. He wasn't my first one, but with the 4 picks, I had to go with him. And I think one of us, or maybe 2 or 3 of us, have picked him as.
Oh, all right. We lost them. We'll see if we get him back. Jordan, continue your train of thought. You were talking about.
I think Houston's a game. You don't have Derrick Henry. You know that coming into the game. You've kind of got to put a team like that away. And I think anytime you give them extra opportunities, especially to the number of 4, you're asking to lose. I just think you can blame the defense, but they really didn't give up too many splash plays. They kind of played a decent game. It's just when you kind of just keep feeding the ball back to them, they're bound to kind of eventually get in. I think, you want the defense, like you said, to make a big play, but I don't know if that even changes the game. They were down 2 scores, and it just, anytime you give another team 4 extra possessions and you lose those 4 possessions, you're asking, it would be a major deal if the Titans even won to give up the ball 4 times.
Well, maybe we should just give it to just Tennessee Titans across the board. Rather than say Tennessee Titans defense, we could give it to the whole team. Would be the first time that we've done that, I think, to my memory. So, David, you picked Tannehill as well. You kind of dropped out. I don't know if you want to kind of add anything else.
No, I was just going to kind of say that he's kind of been a little schizophrenic so far this year. He's been good. He's been game ball worthy. He's been goat worthy. I know 2 of those 4 picks kind of came late. In a game where everybody in the world would have expected Tennessee to take care of Houston, especially since Tennessee has looked pretty good without Derrick Henry. Signing Adrian Peterson and kind of filling that void pretty good, but. Yeah, it's there's a lot of kind of teams right now that I don't know if we know who they really are. So and I think Hill's kind of playing like that, hot, cold, off, on.
How many times I'm on this show saying, all right, this is the part of the year where we see really the pretenders and the contenders, and this year's been kind of different. I don't know if we know really fully like we usually do.
Yeah, and that game was each team had the record for longest losing streak and longest win streak, and they broke each other's streaks, which is interesting.
All right, Jordan. We'll kind of we lost David again. We'll get him back. Give us another goat besides you said Tannehill. Give us another one coming back.
So I went with another quarterback. I went with Josh Allen. I think it partly goes on Allen, but I think a lot falls on the play calling as well. I think they had like 6 rushing attempts to a running back, which anytime you face a team like the Colts who are going to just grind you through the ground with a guy like Jonathan Taylor, you have to have some semblance of a run game. And I think basically throwing your run game out, using 3 different guys, and basically not really establishing any type of run game and just putting it on Allen, it's tough. He's a guy that can win you games like that and really just go out and throw it wherever he wants. But he's also a guy who's had a history of being a bit wild and being a bit high with throws and forcing it at times. And I think when you ask him to throw that many times and to really pretty much put the team on its back, you're kind of susceptible to those mistakes. And I just think they really have gone away. They've taken the success he had last year and really early on this year, and they're just kind of throwing out a game, getting rid of a real offensive game plan and hoping he just does it. And then you still have to game plan around him. Just because he's good doesn't mean you can kind of throw out any idea of a scheme and just hope he does it for you. And I think it's tough because he does get, the GOAT. He threw 2 picks and they weren't really great, and he just didn't look himself. It's just at the same time, I think you have to figure out play calling, and it's been the same story. Pick Moss, pick Singletary, just pick one of them, and Matt Breida ends up being their leading rusher today, and it doesn't really make any sense to me, and it's got to be difficult for Allen to kind of know going into the game he's not really going to have any help with the run game. He's not, and that defenses can gear up for that now. They know they're not going to run the ball. They know even if they do, it's not a real run threat, and you're just going to have DNs and linebackers really pin their ears back and come for him, and that's kind of what we've seen.
Yeah, I did not go Josh Allen. He was on my short list. I agree with everything you said. I don't know what Buffalo is doing with their run game. All reports coming out of camp was they really love Zach Moss, that he was going to be the back, and Singletary was going to be the complement. Like you said, then they don't use either one really. 6 carries between them. Matt Breida today, I didn't even realize he was there. So it's like running back. It's almost like they have a 6-man, like it's almost like a pitching staff in baseball, except it's running backs. They can't figure out Josh Allen's a running back as well. Many weeks he leads that team in rushing. I think they need a bell cow back if they're going to take that next step. I thought they could overcome that. I thought Zach Moss was going to have a better year.
Is I think they possibly have a guy in either Singletary or Moss that could be that guy, and they really refuse to let either of them take the job. They don't give enough touches to either of them to really make a difference.
Yeah, can't argue with that pick. Buffalo's got problems. The last 2 weeks they lose to Jacksonville 9-6, and today they get blown out 41-15 at home to the Colts. And it's crazy if you look at the Colts the box score, they don't even look like, other than Jonathan Taylor, I mean, they don't even look like they score. It was really Jonathan Taylor 41, Bills 15. And so David Lee, we'll go to you. We're on goats. I guess my first question, did Josh Allen make it? And if not, who are you giving it to?
No, Josh Allen didn't make it, but I've got another kind of player/unit here. I had to go look up who this guy was, but Tim Boyle, the quarterback for the Lions, they threw this guy out there, and I just feel so sorry for him. He's had about 8 completions in the league. He's had a bit at Green Bay, it looks like, and He had 77 yards and 2 interceptions. TJ Hawkinson, who I think you had on your GOAT list last week, John,
Yeah.
he was pretty much the entire Detroit passing game with 51 catching 51 yards of Boyle 77. So 77 yards, Detroit Lions passing game. This is the same Lion that had Stafford last year, and obviously there's a lot more wrong there than Stafford, but but given all that, they only lost by 3 points to the Browns. They only scored 10, but that's just it was just sad to see them throw 77 passing yards. If a team 77 rushing yards would be pretty sad. The NFL, man, you almost would accidentally get 7 yards in today's NFL. So it was that was pretty for this guy. I've never heard of him before. Looks like he spent time at UConn and then like Eastern Washington or something like that. So pretty rough day to throw him out there. But at least the Lions have that one tie. That they're not going to go 0-17. They're not going to be the first team to go 0-17. So.
Well, yeah, we're not going to talk about that, but I will say that Timmy Boyle sounds like somebody, you would hear talked about like a Boston bar, like, well, that young Timmy Boyle, he's playing pretty good in Detroit. I don't know if they'll sound exactly like the Lucky Charms guy when they do that, but, no, I can't argue there, but, we kind of come to expect that from Detroit. So I didn't pick him. Just because I don't think he has much to work with. DeAndre Swift had a big game there. Finally, I'm a big DeAndre Swift guy.
Swift are only offense pretty much.
Yeah. So I mean they had a running back today, but that's about it. Hawkinson at least caught a pass, unlike last week, which thank God he didn't. We probably would have lost and not tied. So we'll stay with you, David. Coming back, give us another one of your game balls.
I with this again. See how you not acknowledge him today. 5 touchdowns for Jonathan Taylor. I think I had him last week, but 185 yards. He had just under 6 yards, 4 rushing touchdown, and then that one passing touchdown. He had like 20 yards through the air as well. He just keeps on doing what he did at Wisconsin. He had about 6,000 yards in his college career. He just keeps on doing it. And when you look at the AFC right now, you look at the Titans losing, Bills losing again. The Chiefs beat the Cowboys, but they've been kind of shaky. So maybe the Colts deserve a little bit of a second look here for what they're doing, and maybe they step up in the playoffs. Maybe the Patriots do, but it's kind of interesting, kind of what they're putting together. And then if Wentz can stay healthy and not just make too many mistakes, but and with Derrick Henry out, Jonathan Taylor I think is absolutely in the front running to win the rushing title. Nick Chubb has been hurt too. He should be back though, so I think it's his to lose right now, especially with Henry out. And even if Henry wasn't out, I think it would have been a really cool race to see which one of these guys would have ended up with the most rushing yards this year. But I think right now it's he's gonna kind of run away with it here, and he's kind of hitting a stride too. So,
yep. I'll make it easy. Jordan, was he on your game ball list?
Yeah. I think if you just like you said earlier, if you look at the Colts stat line and how they played, their offense is built around Jonathan Taylor. You need him to be in that lineup for it to move. I think you only see that with a couple guys in the league. I think it's kind of a Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, and Derrick Henry. You don't see it with a lot of running backs that make that much of a difference. So I think to see a team really recognize that and commit to really running him and running their offense through him, especially in the game now where you see teams that even do have good running backs kind of commit to a pass game and really air it out. To see Indianapolis really kind of commit to him and pretty much put that offense on his back and I think it's a good thing for Wentz and really doesn't put too much on him either and kind of let him play off of Jonathan Taylor's game. I just think he takes so much off Wentz, who, coming from where he was coming from, was really trying to do everything. So I think it's almost like a rehabilitation for Wentz to kind of let him calm down and just hand the ball off and still win, where I think he was in the mindset before, where if I'm not throwing a 50-yard touchdown every other play, we're going to lose. I think Taylor's really made it easy for Reich, too, to kind of mesh this offense.
Yeah, it's a consensus. I mean, a guy hits pay dirt 5 times in 1 week. He's got to get a game ball. Some guys don't do that all year long. That's some guy's season. So he's like David said, he's probably arguably the best back in the league. And if Derrick Henry wasn't hurt, I think we could make that argument just the same. I don't even know if it's an argument at this point. If the season ended today, and I had an MVP vote. I know traditionally that's a quarterback award, but there's a chance he wins that and kind of breaks that, the quarterback streak of winning MVP. I think Jonathan Taylor is an MVP. I think that's obvious. He's an MVP candidate, and to me, if the season ended today, like you said, Jordan, he's single-handedly, in a sense, winning these Colt games for him. Wentz is playing pretty decent, but he's really moving the chains, scoring touchdowns, and big reason why they're winning these games. And so I can't argue with that. And you always wonder with these backs, right? We talked about that in the offseason. 4 to 6 year window. You look at guys like Le'Veon Bell, and they're pretty much out of the league, or their last 3-4 years are invisible. And then you have those different, those special backs, your Barrys, your Emmets, even Adrian Peterson, if you will, even though he's kind of just hanging on here for dear life. But those Hall of Fame backs that people talk about even years after. Jonathan Taylor might have a shot to be one of those backs. The only thing I worry about that is, the wear and tear. You carry the ball that much. That's what some people will say is why Le'Veon Bell's kind of done now. Just way too much tread on the tire and kind of, it's like a star, right? Burnt out too fast. And so if the Colts can manage him and his workload in a way where he can remain healthy, he could be one of those type backs potentially. I mean, he's got the talent. That's for sure. It's just whether he's built to last, as they say. So yeah, we all picked him. So that's a consensus. We'll go back down. I'll snake draft it, and I'll give out my last game ball guy that I love. Really stepped up today, making an argument. We talk about best running back in the game. This guy can make an argument about being potentially the best receiver.
Let's see. Is he
in football? I don't think he's there yet, but he's. All right, there we go. That might have been me. That might have been us this time, Jordan. Yeah. So Justin Jefferson for the Vikings in the game where they beat Green Bay by 3 points. He had like 8 catches, 169 yards, 2 touchdowns, almost to a fault at the end too. Kirk Cousins was just really looking only for him. He actually threw what was initially ruled a pick, caught by Savage at Green Bay, but the ball, when they slowed it down, they saw the ball come out when he was on the ground. If they that would have been kept an interception, Green Bay would actually won that in regulation. But we talk about guys, kind of carrying their team. I think Justin Jefferson was this guy today. I think he's the real deal. And I think what Minnesota does with other players will make the difference there. But they got their number one receiver, arguably one of the best in the league. So Justin Jefferson got my last game ball. Going back down, Jordan. Who's another game ball?
So for game, I went in the same game. I said a slash, but they're opposing guys. I went with Rodgers and Cousins. I think they both had great games passing, and I really wanted to give it to just Rodgers. I think he 385 with 4 touchdowns coming off. Really, whatever you think of the last week, it was a lot for him regardless. So to come out and kind of really just block everything out and have a game like that is huge. And then I think Cousins doesn't get enough credit when he has these games against big time quarterbacks, and he really dueled with Rodgers and kind of was throw for throw with him. He had 341 and 3 touchdowns, and I think to kind of to step up and be able to kind of throw on the same level as Rodgers in a game like that is pretty big, and not many guys can do it. I think, like you said, a pick does change the game, but it didn't happen. And I think he stayed in the game, and he made some big throws late in overtime to kind of set him up. So I think a lot of people talk about Cousins and kind of bring up Cousins when he doesn't get it done, and he kind of has those pedestrian games against teams you really want to see him kind of insert himself more. And I think this was a game he kind of took that step and was really kind of going 1-for-1 with Rodgers.
Yeah, they both played well. It was a shootout. I think, like David said, he was expecting that with the Kansas City Dallas game, and we got that with the quarterbacks in the Minnesota Green Bay game. Did another game ball, David? You got somebody we didn't get to?
No, my other one was Justin Jefferson as well. Especially him catching that late touchdown to go up above Green Bay, and then Green Bay comes back with a one-play 75-yard touchdown pass I saw. But Jefferson obviously was there throughout the entire game, making plays, and he had that late touchdown, which was critical. And I think he had a pretty decent catch on the game-winning drive before the field goal as well. I didn't see it, but I remember kind of at that play-by-play. But he's right at 1,000 yards at 10 games, so he's on pace for around 1,700 yards. I think he's got like 6 touchdowns, so he's on pace to blow past what he did as a rookie last year, even without 17 games. So yeah, I mean, I think you're right. Considering some of the best, most productive receivers in the league right now, you got Cooper, Tyreek, Monte Adams are kind of the, I think maybe that kind of get the most respect, but I think maybe people have forgotten a little bit about Jefferson. So, yeah, it's kind of cool to see him and Jamar kind of accept the two former LSU's. That's cool. Where Justin Jefferson, the best rookie receiver last year, and Jamar Chase is the best receiver this year. So I like that kind of tie-in as well. But yeah, for sure. It's, him and Adam Thielen are a cool combo, and I expect a little bit more record-wise from the Vikings about at the beginning of the season. But yeah, I mean, it's he's definitely proving that his rookie season was no fluke. That's for sure.
Yeah, we'll kind of snake draft it like we traditionally do. Who's left on your list?
My GOAT list, I just gave it to the entire Atlanta Falcons running game. As bad as Matt Ryan was today, the Falcons have put up 3 points in the past 2 weeks. Hang on, I have their stats pulled up here, but it was pretty laughable. I just lost it. But it's just the who they're rolling out there is just pretty embarrassing. But on paper, I don't think the Falcons' offense should be bad. It's just one of those deals that they're just not they're not putting up any points at all. I almost gave my last go to Dak Scott and the Cowboys passing offense for not even getting in the end zone, but that was pretty rough as well. But I had to go with I had to pile on to the Falcons' woes of only scoring 3 points in the past 2 weeks. So they're kind of riding themselves out of significance pretty quickly. But I kind of feel sorry for Matt Ryan a little bit. I think he's a good dude. He's one of those. He's kind of like a Matt Stafford type of player, where he's had the stats and he's had been in the running almost every year for passing leader. But he's kind of in a somewhat similar situation right now as Stafford had been for years. So kind of nearing the end of his career. So it's kind of sad to see the offense tank so much when it wasn't really that long ago when they were pretty scary.
Yeah, if you watch that game, which I did, he's usually pretty even-keeled, quiet guy. Multiple times in that game, the camera caught him. I mean, spittle coming. He was yelling at folks, from Arthur Smith at one point to the receiving.
Matty Ice,
huh?
You're saying he wasn't Matty Ice?
He was Matty Hot under the collar. I mean, I've never seen him. I mean, I don't watch every game, so I'm not saying this is the first time it's ever happened. But in the games I've watched, he's usually pretty cool, calm demeanor. I mean, you could see the frustration coming out, like David just alluded to, not scoring, struggling. You have an Arthur Smith, a new head coach who's supposed to be an offensive guy, and it's not clicking.
Is they've lost before, but even when they've lost, they've had one of the most high-powered, air raid style offenses, and that's, like you said, when you go from that to kind of being held up to 3 points in 2 weeks, it's got to be hard.
He was unhinged. I mean, there was 3 or 4. It was almost like the producer, after the first meltdown, the producer, said, "Hey, let's have a camera just on Matt Ryan the rest of this game," and they caught him 3 or 4 more times, just whether it be a member of the coaching staff, the wide receiver unit. And I mean, it wasn't just a little yelling. I mean, he was red-faced and going off. And I know at one point, I don't remember which receiver it was, they just sort of rolled their eyes. And so not a good situation if, when Matt Ryan's losing his cool to that level multiple times in the same game, there's problems there. And so can't argue with that one, David. Jordan, who's left on your list?
Hey, John, I found the stat that I was 3 Falcons quarterbacks threw interceptions.
Yeah.
So Ryan threw 2 interceptions. Josh Rosen came in the game, threw an interception. Felipe Franks, I don't know if I've ever heard of him before.
He's from Miami.
He stepped in and contributed an interception on his only pass.
He was out there.
No, he went to Florida, and then he got hurt, and Kyle Trask just took his job. Then he went to Arkansas, and then I don't really know how he's on a team. He's got to he's built NFL quarterback should be. I think it's one of those he looks like an NFL quarterback, so we can have him hold a clipboard kind of deal.
And it's funny you mentioned that. I could be wrong. They both threw their picks on their first pass after coming into the game. So Rosen comes into the game. Rosen comes into the game for Ryan, and the first pass he throws is picked right into the linebacker's hands, and that was one they pulled. The camera pans over to Matt Ryan, and he wasn't yelling, but his body language and the way the expression on his face with his eyes spoke volumes. Like, I don't think he wanted to come out. I think Arthur Smith just knew this game was kind of over. I'm going to keep my number one quarterback because these two guys kind of stink. And then he went literally the next series. Franks comes in and he throws a pick right off the bat. And I think that the camera again pans. First, it panned to Arthur Smith. And if you read his lips, he says something to the effect of, "You got to be kidding me." And then the camera points to Matt Ryan. He's literally just walking up the sideline, like just to get away from everything. Like if he could have went into the stand or the locker room and not like really been criticized for it, I think that's where he would have went. It was odd. It's not something you see all the time. And that offense has got some troubles. I'm not gonna lie, it was kind of comical to watch. Yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I don't ever remember, and that would be a really crazy stat to try to dig up. When's the last time a team had 3 different quarterbacks throw an interception?
I've seen,
one game.
I've seen the starting quarterback throw interceptions on like successive, possessions, like the first play. In other words, quarterback throws the pick, the other team gets the ball, they do whatever, whether they score or punt. The guy comes back on the field, and the very next play, I've seen him throw another interception. But I've never seen 3 guys do it, and we saw that. It's got to be, someone has to check that out. That might be a first for sure. Jordan, who's left on your list, or did we?
Oh, I went with a guy. He didn't really have a bad game, but he also didn't have a good game. With Russell Wilson. I think this was a game. I think they've kind of been struggling, and it was a game, no Kyler Murray, and you kind of want to come out and take that, an easier win. You're not going to get the Cardinals without their kind of best guy that often, and he really didn't do too much. He was just over 50% completion wise, no touchdowns and no picks, and just over 200 yards. And he had DK and Tyler Lockett, so Lockett had a good game, but really he had over 50% of their receiving yards. So it was just kind of a game. I think you look at that game going in, no Kyler Murray. It's one you might be able to steal and maybe turn your season around. And I think coming out like they did, it might have been the final nail kind of in that Seahawks season and potentially in really Russell Wilson's competitive career at Seattle. I don't know. We kind of had that bit of the hoopla before this year with him in Seattle, and I think we've kind of seen a bit more discourse as the season's gone on. I don't think their play and really what's around him is going to convince him to really want to be there much longer. And DK, I think, who could be good, is really not playing great, and he's kind of breaking down when he doesn't have those big games. And I just don't know if with Russell Wilson kind of he's not old, but age kind of catches up to you pretty quick, especially in the NFL. I don't know if he wants to kind of keep being in that kind of same spot, running in place, kind of like Seattle has been. I just think there might be a change at the end of the year, and I think this was kind of one of those games that could have been on the fence, and it just didn't happen.
Yeah, I agree. I went with a guy in that game. You actually talked about him in DK Metcalf. 4 catches, 31 yards in a game where they were throwing. Tyler Lockett had, I believe, 4 catches for 113 yards. DK Metcalf, as you alluded to, has been disappointing. He runs his mouth a lot, and he's sort of becoming one of those receivers that, the way they talk doesn't match the performance on the field, much like a Beckham, OBJ, and certain other guys that we see. The wide receiver is a diva positions. He's becoming sort of a diva, but he's not putting up the numbers. So, I like to use that saying, your mouth is writing checks, your behind can't cash. He's becoming one of those type guys. Going to Russell Wilson, he's getting a little long in the tooth. I think, I think this could be his last year in Seattle. I'll say this: there is no way, and I know people after I say this, the people that hear are going to say, "Well, geez, way to go out on a limb, John." But there's no way next year Russell Wilson and Pete Carroll are both back with Seattle. One of those guys is gone, if not both. But there's no way they're both returning. I think I think some of what we heard in the offseason, Russell Wilson, which was poo-pooed later on. I believe it was what we kind of heard. They kind of, did some damage control, spin control on it. I think where there was smoke, there's fire. And I think there's going to be fire again. And, whether that's Russell Wilson going to that front office and saying, we got to rebuild this team quick or I'm going to leave because, I got 2 to 4 years left. I can't wait around and for a complete rebuild. You got to make some trades. I don't know what he thinks about Pete Carroll, but Pete Carroll's the oldest coach in the NFL. Traditionally guys don't do that well at that age. The game kind of passes them by. So I don't know if there's a little bit of that. There's going to be some changes in Seattle for sure. And, to what extent might be whether Russell Wilson stays or says, you know what, I want out of here. Get a bunch of draft picks for me, start your rebuild, and send me somewhere where I can be surrounded with a little bit better chance to win in the later part of my career. He's got 1 ring. I think, there's a thing with quarterbacks in the NFL. A lot of guys have, 1 ring. Not a lot of quarterbacks have 2 rings. And so these quarterbacks have 1 ring that are very good quarterbacks like Russell Wilson. That second ring is so monumental to them, which is why I think they care so much about it. And so I think Russell Wilson probably doesn't play here in Seattle next year. So I went with, that became a Russell Wilson conversation. But DK Metcalf, he's just not putting up the numbers. It's not because he has a bad quarterback. He has Tyler Lockett taking off some pressure on the other side too. So he's got all the reasons to be successful. I know he gets critiqued for not being a great route runner. I'm not saying this is why, he's got purple hair now or whatever, blue hair, and just kind of becoming that caricature rather than just focusing on being the best receiver you can be. And, he's got the physique for it, but it's more than just what you look like. You got to put in the work and learn your craft. And I don't know what's going on there, but there's problems there. And so, I've even seen a couple times where Russell Wilson, he wasn't necessarily yelling at Metcalf, but you can tell it was a heated exchange. There were some issues there. So there's problems in Seattle. I think that's evident with the last 2 weeks and even more than that. So we'll see. We'll see what happens there. Me and Jordan talked before the show. Maybe we'll take Russell Wilson wearing black and gold. If by all means. So it beats Mason Rudolph by a landslide. So
I don't know if there's many quarterbacks that don't beat me.
Yeah, that's true. At this point, David, I'm not opposed. He's proven he can put up numbers and connect with receivers. So anybody, did we cover everyone on our list?
Yeah,
that's all mine.
Yeah.
All right, one quick topic. I don't want to spend a ton of time on it. We're at the 53-minute mark. Today the Jets started Joe Flacco over what's his name there? Mike
White.
Mike White. I almost called him Mike Smith. I know Mike White threw 4 picks last week. I get it. I get, bad week. Made some of our GOAT list last week. But why, you're the Jets, right? You're Robert Saleh. You're not going to the playoffs. Zach Wilson's not ready to come back yet. why go with Joe Flacco? Why not at least start Mike White one more time? See if you got some. He did have some good early performances. I just don't get the whole Joe Flacco thing. Like, why go there? That guy's on probably his last year in the league. I'm not saying he used to be good, but like to me, you go with someone younger, especially when you're not the favorite to begin with. Just kind of your take on your thoughts. Why Flacco over White?
You want me to
Jordan, whoever. So,
Yeah, go. Have David go first.
all right.
go? Go, Jordan.
All right, I'll go. So, I really don't know why. I mean, it really doesn't make too much sense. I don't think they have too much of a plan at quarterback right now. I think they're kind of just waiting till Wilson gets back. I just don't really know so much why you make that switch now, unless Mike White's banged up or you really don't believe in him anymore. It just doesn't really make too much sense. And another thing I think that doesn't really help you in the long run is Joe Flacco played well and looked good. And Elijah Moore had a huge game, and that was one of the rookies who they thought was going to be a big difference maker. And with Wilson, he really wasn't getting the ball. And it's just another quarterback kind of to add to the list that's had success in that offense that's not named Zach Wilson. And it doesn't really make much sense why they keep kind of like it's that revolving door of like middling quarterbacks, and it's just odd because they end up doing pretty well, and it just kind of keeps up bringing comparisons to put up next to Zach Wilson, and it just doesn't really make much sense to me. I think you don't want to root for Mike White to do bad if you're Robert Saleh, but at the same time, I think it would have been okay to bring him out this week again. Maybe it doesn't light it up, and at least it might be somewhat comforting or at least reassuring to Wilson to see a guy like, stay in that offense and necessarily have the same kind of struggles he did. I think having like this new quarterback every week and this spark and watching like the offense kind of take some life, and then after a week or two with that guy, it kind of deflates again. It just like you said, I don't have an answer. I think there's more questions. It really doesn't make too much sense, especially for a team in their situation. They're not fighting for a spot. It doesn't really make too much sense to monkey around and mess with different guys.
Yeah, I mean this move would make more sense, Jordan, David, if they were in the playoff hunt and they needed to win. Flacco probably gives you the best chance to win, but I don't know unless the only thing I can think of, and then we'll hear from David here, is just that the Jets obviously on a losing streak. Maybe Saleh, even though he's a first year head coach, shouldn't probably be fired this year. He's going to get him more than 1 year, but maybe starting to feel that pressure. Like, I got to try to get a win. We're playing the Dolphins. They're not great. Let me start a veteran, Joe Flacco, get a win. New York press will be off my back for just 1 week at least. That's the only thing I can think of.
It's just weird because they traded for him too. So it's not like he's kind of been there and he's been that mentor guy. They just kind of brought him back in. It's just an odd situation in general.
Yeah, I don't know. David, you have any sentiments? Like, you're a football guy, obviously. Why Flacco? I get it. He might give you the best chance to win, but I think you go when you're not in the playoff mix. I think you go youth.
Yeah, at that level, it makes no sense. I will say is that Brandon Jones, former Longhorn safety for the Dolphins, just absolutely smacked Flacco, caused a fumble from the blindside blitz. So I had to bring that up. Jordan's right. So didn't play bad. I mean, it's it's kind of one of those things where he's in his mid-30s, bouncing around the league, trying to hang on as long as possible, and you're going to land on teams like the Jets. And Mike White's still a young guy. He was drafted by the Cowboys, and then he kind of disappeared for a few years, and pops back up with the Jets. And right, last week he was terrible, but before then he kind of showed some promise. And yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's if Mike White is definitely not your guy, and Wilson is, then why not stick Flacco in there? Maybe Flacco can just spread the ball around, give the receivers a better arm. What they have, what's his face, Moore? Yeah, Elijah Moore had 141 yards and a touchdown. So maybe that's the play, that at least Flacco gets out there and can sling the ball around with a little more confidence, and give the receivers some more passes, as opposed to a guy like Tim Boyle, who throws up 77 total yards. And at least maybe you give the offense a chance to feel continuity. Your kind of game, it was a close anyway. Maybe it's just the other offensive players and sustain a drive, open up the playbook a little more, instead of with a guy like Mike. Maybe you only have access to about 25% of the book. I don't know. So to me, it says a little bit more about the other offensive players, and give him a shot of what it feels like to kind of some drives going, score a little bit, and play with a veteran quarterback who's been in the bowl.
Yeah, no, I like that explanation. It makes sense. You do have young receivers there too, and you want them to have confidence. And if Flacco, that experience is getting that ball to him, hitting those windows. I get that. That probably makes the most sense. Maybe you have a 4 interception game. I don't think it's a given that you're going to just get to start the next week. I think maybe there's a message there too. Like,
and then
hey,
other pointing back to you saying like a message. Mike White really kind of started letting loose a bit in his kind of press conferences, and I understand the having the self-confidence, but he went from kind of that backup who got a shot that looked pretty good, and then he's doing press conferences where I would have taken myself number one. That's just how I view myself. And it just, like you said, it might have been kind of one of those messages like, Wilson's still the guy, you know what I mean? You were kind of in there, but enough of the like, I should have been the first pick in my draft kind of talk stuff.
yeah.
The thing that confuses me with it is I think Saleh probably should have planned for life if Wilson was hurt or struggled way before the season. I think coming into the year with a backup of Mike White would lead to a situation where they're in now, where they end up trading for Flacco, who was a backup there last year. I think Saleh might have wanted to have a bit more foresight with having a veteran kind of ready on the roster. I think that's why you probably saw them a bit scrambled to bring Flacco in, a guy that knows at least the facility and the where he's going into. And like David said, I think it makes more sense, and it's probably comforting for a rookie running back in Michael Carter and Elijah Moore at receiver to have a guy, like you said, that's done it. He's been in the play. He really had probably one of the greatest playoff runs ever for a quarterback into the Super Bowl. Just to have a guy that knows what he's doing, and he's been successful before, can do a lot and bring a lot more confidence to a team.
Plus, Joe Flacco can buy those young guys beer. You can go into the store and buy a beer and come out. Here's your 6.
Zach Wilson's only 14 years old, though, so he can't do that.
I'm glad they traded.
Hey,
Joe, I'm glad they traded for you. I'll give you money. Will you go get me some Old English?
Natural light, yeah.
So, all right. Yeah, I was just curious. I just, when I saw that today, I just thought, like, why not start young? But you know what? It makes sense. You give your receivers, your young running back Carter, some confidence with a veteran. Maybe feel like they're more part of the NFL with a veteran like that in there, and makes more sense now after hearing what you guys said. But still got problems there. When your quarterback room is Mike White, Joe Flacco, and young Zach Wilson. Like you said, Jordan, it's a great point. Like I know you like Zach Wilson, that's why you drafted him number 2. But why not have a veteran presence there earlier, just in case? If not, even if that veteran presence doesn't play, but just to help that young Zach Wilson out.
Yeah.
Like Mike, what is Mike White telling? I guess he could say, hey, when I watched Dak Prescott, he used to do this. I
This
guess
is what Dak did.
but I think it's better to have a guy that says, hey, when I was when I see this
Yeah, when I won the
defense,
Super Bowl.
yeah, or when I see this defense, or you see the safety creep up, this, that. So I don't know. You great point by you. I know they really love Zach Wilson, but they should have prepared better for getting him prepared for life in the NFL. And they didn't. I don't think it's just a quarterback problem in New York. They got some other ones as well. And
I think this is a
we'll see.
theme across the league. I think we've seen teams kind of do that new coach, new quarterback thing, and it hasn't really seemed to catch on really anywhere. I think the best we've seen is maybe the Bengals or even the Chargers have done well with Herbert and Staley, but that's not really an offensive guy. He's more the defensive side of the ball. So I think we've seen these teams kind of bring, their quarterback and a new system in, and maybe it's not always good to do that both changes at the same time.
Yeah.
But we've seen it work also, so I think it's a individual basis. But
All right, guys, we're 5 minutes over the hour, which isn't bad, but that's going to do it for this week. Once again, if you are watching on us live, thank you. If you are listening to us on podcast, thank you as well. We're live on Sunday nights, 9:30. Again, on December 1st, we'll be part of the Six Back Coverage Network. Happy to make that move. When I get more specifics, I will post them and let folks know. But with that being said, the picks race is a dead heat. Looks like we're all going to be around the same. No one's more than 2 games ahead of anybody, and so it's getting interesting there as well. So with that being said, we'll see you next week.